Hello. It's not quite like it was, but it feels right. It feels really good. So glad to be back with you today. So a couple of weeks ago, I gave a Sunday message called Memories. It was offered as a reflection on the richness to be mined from our past. Over the years, we've learned to focus our attention on the present. And of course, there's a great value in showing up fully for the now. Yet every once in a while, it's helpful to think back to the road that brought us to this place and time. The twists and turns, the joys and the sorrows have equipped us to meet the now with greater wisdom. Last week, Reverend Todd kicked off our June study of the power of imagination. His message turned my mind from the past toward the future. You see, I was sitting with some discomfort that day over the fact that our landlord had informed us that we needed to leave our home in August. Bad news, right? But as Todd spoke, I thought of these words written by Charles Dickens to open his masterpiece, A Tale of Two Cities. You'll recognize them. It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. Wow. That could have been written yesterday, could it not? And in that moment, it occurred to me how intertwined the past and the future really are. How often bad news has ended up being good news. I remembered that endings have a way of unfolding into adventures that ultimately lead to amazing new beginnings. And then my panic sort of subsided. Curiosity took its place. And as I'm sure you have discovered, curiosity is an engraved invitation to imagination. 6 years ago this week, we moved into this beautiful building. In December of 2013, we, at that time numbering about 20, received notice of a large rent increase on our cozy little nest on Industrial Drive and made the brave decision to move. Anybody remember that here? Yeah, I know some of you did. Turns out it was not so easy to find a larger and more affordable space to rent. And so for the next year, CCU met in 3 different places. Some of you remember the real estate office, the library, the train depot. But you know something I remember looking back? We were happy every place we were. And the most amazing thing of all was that our congregation actually grew. We don't even know how people found us as we wandered around town. And little did we know that the reason we had not found our next home was that our vision was too small. That shifted on a dime when one of our beloved group donated a large sum of money, which led us to begin imagining ourselves as owners rather than renters. As we nurtured that vision, more and more and more of us began giving sizable donations. Before long, we found this building. It had been used as an office building, but again, the power of imagination allowed us to see its potential as a church home. Then we went to the bank for financing and found them hesitant, which is a kind word and an understatement, to lend money to a small group who had never borrowed any money before. Again, with our faith in divine order, we imagined other possibilities. And much to our astonishment, when I called the owner and told him what was going on, and I was so sorry, I guess we weren't going to be able to go ahead with purchasing the building, he offered to finance the purchase himself and lowered the price and the interest rate to meet our monthly budget. When does that happen? Then we needed to renovate, requiring more funds, and another huge donation came in. So we went to work, and led by a few super talented folks, did most of the renovation ourselves. Remember that? You know, you've written underneath this sheetrock, you know there are affirmations underneath that we all put there. And 6 years ago this month, we had the joy of moving into this beautiful building, our very own church home. I wondered what message I could give on that first Sunday that would do justice to the moment and the journey we had been on together. Strange as it may seem, you all know me, I couldn't stop thinking about Winnie the Pooh. In particular, a story in which Christopher Robin leads an expedition to the North Pole. I won't read the story in its entirety today as I did then, but it just seems so perfect for a month on imagination that I've got to give you a taste of it. It seems that 6-year-old Christopher Robin comes to Pooh Bear dressed in his adventure gear, including his sturdy black boots, and announces that they are going on an expedition to find the North Pole. Pooh, who is always up for an adventure, is immediately on board, so he goes around gathering all their friends to travel with them. He gets Piglet, who has many concerns about the possibility of ambushes along the way, for Piglet is a very cautious little pig, and he worries a lot. Pooh reassures him by reminding him that the whole group is going together, and he will be fine. Then he goes and gets Rabbit. Rabbit says yes immediately because he's a very smart problem solver, and he's really good at seeing possibilities. But what Pooh didn't know is that he was going to bring his entire family with him. I think there were maybe 13 or 14 babies following behind Rabbit. He calls on Owl for his wisdom and his vision. And he finds his friend Tigger, a very bouncy little tiger who is always optimistic and full of enthusiasm. He hesitates, but then realizes that they can't possibly leave their old friend Eeyore behind, even though he has this tendency to complain and expect the worst. And finally, they invite Kanga and her baby Roo, simply because they're family and a real pleasure to be with. And so they all get together and they gather up their provisions, and when they do, they're ready to move on out. Christopher Robin fields many questions about the North Pole. Where does he think it is exactly? What does he think it will look like? All he would say was, "You will know it when you see it." Pretty soon, the expedition leads them to the edge of a river where they decide to rest and eat their provisions. While setting up the camp, there suddenly comes a big squeal from baby Roo, a splash, and a loud cry of alarm from Kanga. "Roo has fallen into the river," cries Rabbit, and he and Christopher Robin rush to the rescue. "Look at me swimming," said Roo from the middle of the river. He's clearly having a ball. "Are you all right, Roo dear?" called Kanga anxiously. "Yes, just look at me swim," and he is suddenly thrust over the waterfall. Everyone was doing his best to help. "We need to stretch something across the river so that Roo can grab hold of it," Pooh said. But then Pooh was already on it. He was standing in the middle of the river holding a large stick, which he spread across the river, and as Roo flew by, he grabbed hold of it, and they were able to pull him out. Baby Roo was still thrilled by the whole adventure. All he could talk about was that he had been swimming in the river. He beamed from ear to ear, but Christopher Robin was not listening to Roo. He was staring at Pooh. Pooh, he said, where did you find that pole? I just found it, and I thought it might be useful, so I picked it up. Pooh, Christopher Robin said solemnly, the expedition is over. You have found the North Pole. Meanwhile, Eeyore dragged himself back to the group, swishing his sopping wet tail, which he had dragged in the river, dangled over the edge in case Roo could grab that. As I expected, he said. It's lost all feeling. It's numb. But I suppose no one cares about that. Poor old Eeyore. I'll dry it off for you, said Christopher Robin, and took out his handkerchief and rubbed it down. Thank you, Christopher Robin. You are the only one who seems to understand about tails. They don't think. That's the matter with the rest of them. They've no imagination. A tail isn't a tail to them, just a little bit extra at the end. Pooh's found the North Pole, Christopher Robin said to everyone. Isn't that lovely? Is that it? Said Eeyore, looking at the stick Pooh was holding. Yes, said Christopher Robin. That is what we've been out here looking for, said Eeyore. Yes, said Pooh. Oh, well, at least it didn't rain. And they stuck the pole in the ground, and Christopher Robin had a message to pin to it. And it said, North Pole, discovered by Pooh, Pooh found it. And they all went home again. And I think, though I'm not quite sure, that Roo was given a nice hot bath and put to bed, and Christopher Robin went back to his house feeling very proud of himself and had a little bit of honey to revive himself. So that's my story. Is it a child's story? Certainly. And certainly not. Children seem to easily understand it, but as we grow older and supposedly wiser, perhaps we become a little less imaginative and excited about going on grand adventures. After all, we've been around the block a few times. We've had our ups and downs and our wins and losses. We've even experienced a few ambushes from life, haven't we? But the thing is, there's still that kid inside of us who's dying to discover the North Pole. Remember that kid? Doesn't care how long it takes. Isn't even sure what it'll look like when you find it. Is ready to handle whatever comes up. Just convinces his friends to go along with it and takes off. No time or energy to worry what others will think or how much trouble it'll be or what will happen in the far-off future. The old rules, well, they just don't apply. What I'm describing here is freedom. When we're in this state of feeling free, our hearts are young and we're full of optimism. The energy of the dream is expectancy. And it's like a hum in our mind and gut that's there all the time. Do you remember it at all? When you get right down to it, joy comes from living free, doesn't it? It comes from daring to dream, no matter how old we are or how many times we've been ambushed. Christopher Robin and the gang have shown us how to do it. Our own Reverend Todd demonstrated it for us too when a year and a half ago he left his life in New York City, packed up his stuff, and headed for the Crystal Coast to begin work as our minister. Quite a change, I'd say. Things did not go exactly as they were planned, did they, Todd? Immediately, we were cast into the midst of the COVID pandemic. And we had to get creative. And we had to learn a lot of new stuff. And we had to enter the world, God help us, of technology. Thanks to Todd's skill and our courage and willingness, we've done pretty darn well. I think one of our estimates was that the congregation has grown about 30% since the whole COVID fiasco began. Now we're beginning to dream of having a homecoming and picturing our whole church family gathered together in this beautiful sanctuary once again. But now we have added technology. So now we can serve people both online and in person at the same time. And we'll reach more people with the unity message than ever before. The vision is growing as quickly as our imagination can take it. Are you with me? The A.A. Milne stories offer rich meaning to us. They're chock full of metaphors. Christopher Robin had an outlandish vision. He would find the North Pole. Well, guess what? We had a big vision too. We would establish a unity presence on the coast that was a beacon of light shining across North Carolina. Christopher Robin put on his sturdy black boots, remember? Metaphysically, feet, shoes, boots symbolize spiritual understanding. Our sturdy boots were our unity principles and a deep faith in spirit and each other. We packed our provisions, the 12 powers, those creative attributes of consciousness that can see us through absolutely anything. We created an affirmative prayer to take with us because, of course, not a one of us would even think of leaving home until we were prayed up. Stepping out on the journey 7+ years ago, we took the whole cast of characters with us. We took Christopher Robin, our creativity, confidence, and courage. We took Pooh Bear, our optimism, trust, and love of one another. We took Rabbit, our intellect and clear thinking. And of course, Piglet and Eeyore will always come along on any journey into the unknown. Otherwise, it would be more like a trip to the dry cleaners than a grand adventure. So yes, we took Piglet, our anxiety and timidity, and Eeyore, our fear and pessimism, and off we went. As our adventure unfolded, we did encounter some dangerous places. We went down some dead ends. We ran around quite a bit. We encountered obstacles, both on the outside and the inside, right? We were ambushed a couple of times, too. Listen, when we suddenly lost that McCabe Road property, and some of you will know about that, it felt like one. The thing is, you see, ambushes are by their nature unexpected. And the only question is, are we going to allow them to take us entirely off the path or simply derail us for a moment or two? We have all kinds of ambushes, and I'm thinking as I look back that the worst ones come from inside me. Sorry. Right? I ambush myself. Do it a lot now that I'm so old. I think about that a lot. And of course, you and I know it has nothing to do with anything. Well, when we lost that property, we did the sensible thing. We did what the Pooh Gang did. We sat down and rested and ate our provisions, the 12 powers. Remember, we did a little review. And then we set out again. And through it all, we were becoming a congregation strong enough to own our own building and do the work that we were sent to the beach to do. So there we were, trudging along, keeping the faith for what seemed like an awful long time. But then the magic started to happen. So here's what I want to say to us all this morning. So Pooh finds the North Pole. He's just doing what needs to be done, and the pole lands right in his lap. What we learn is that when the vision becomes crystal clear, when the consciousness is right, when the work is persistent and congruent and positive, the universe moves and moves fast. Sure, we did some running around and a lot of talking, but I'm telling you, once that last cloud on the vision was cleared away, once skepticism and mistrust were put aside, it was all easy and we had a blast. It takes courage to have a dream. It's kind of scary to dream a big idea without knowing how it's going to happen or how long it will last. It takes strength to hold on to the dream when the road has been long and weary. Yet, what is life without a dream? Endless days of doing the chores necessary to maintain the status quo? That's a rather depressing idea to me, don't you think so? The dance of imagination begins as a desire of the heart, a desire that excites you to think about it and puts a smile on your face, makes your heart beat a little bit faster. The more you think about it, the more possibilities you see. You can feel in your soul that this dream, this picture has the signature of divine mind on it. Pictures start running through your mind like a home movie. Are you just daydreaming? Or are you remembering? This is a little bit long, but I beg your indulgence because Larry read this to us at our last meeting, Enneagram meeting. It's from A Course in Miracles, and it touched me so deeply. I really, really wanted to share it with all of you. So this is from the Course in Miracles. The blind become accustomed to their world by their adjustment to it. They think they know their way around in it. They've learned it not through joyous lessons, but through the stern necessity of limits they believed they could not overcome. And still believing this, they hold these lessons dear and cling to them because they cannot see. They do not understand that these lessons keep them blind. This they do not believe. And so they hold on to the world they learned to see in the imagination, believing it to be their only choice. They do not like this world that they learned through pain. Everything they see in it serves to remind them that they are incomplete and bitterly deprived. Thus, they define their life and where they live, adjusting to it as they think they must, afraid to lose the little that they have. And so it is with all who see the body as all they have and all their brothers have. They try to reach each other, and they fail and fail again. And so they adjust to loneliness, believing that to keep the body is to save the little that they have. Listen. Perhaps you can catch a hint of an ancient state not quite forgotten. Dim, perhaps, and yet not altogether unfamiliar, like a song whose name has been forgotten, and the circumstances in which you heard it completely unremembered. Not the whole song has stayed with you, but just a little wisp of melody attached not to any particular person or place. But you remember from just this little part how lovely was the song, how wonderful the setting where you first heard it, and how you loved those who were there with you and listened with you. The notes are nothing, yet you have kept them with you not for themselves, but as a soft reminder of what would make you weep if you remembered how dear it is to you. You could remember, yet you are afraid, believing you would lose the world you learned since then, and yet you know that nothing in this world that you learned is half so dear as this. So listen and see if you can remember an ancient song you knew so long ago and held more dear than any melody you have taught yourself to cherish since then. What is that wisp of a song in your heart? Is it a daydream or a memory? Is it your time to reach for it? You know, I remember when I first went to seminary at the age of 53, that I had first had that dream when I was 18 years old. Science of Mind founder Ernest Holmes writes, "Our faculty of imagination taps the very roots of being and utilizes the same power that brought the world forth from chaos." Did you get that? Our faculty of imagination taps the very roots of being and utilizes the same power that brought forth the world from chaos. Strong endorsement for a faculty usually assigned to magicians, artists, and children. If there is a yearning in your soul, I urge you to listen carefully to the music. Feel the rhythm. Dance with the universe, moving gracefully from step to step. Wait for right timing. If it's not time to move, don't move. But when the next step is clear, take it. If you make a mistake, simply tweak the direction. Listen, listen, listen to the rhythm of the dance. See, imagination does not end with the dream. I used to think that. Imagination is the calm creativity of a divine mind, an endless stream of guidance leading you forward, step by step. Nothing is missing. When I was sitting in my meditation chair at seminary, feeling lonely for all that I had left behind, I had a vision. And in that vision, I saw that every step I had taken, every aspect of my life, from kids to work to parents to therapy to everything, had led me directly to that place. This way of being honors the vision that comes through you. From the moment we say yes, we're placed on a trajectory of personal growth. Like tumblers in the lock falling into place, people start showing up in our lives to help us grow into the people we need to be to follow the dream and live the dream. How do we know this? Because I know that every one of us has lived it. So now I'd like to invite Deidre to lead us into a time of meditation.
Beautiful one, creative mind, listen to your heart, it's calling, that deep down feeling of possibility, listen to your heart, it's calling. Follow your heart.
As we relax together now, let's take a nice deep breath. And as we exhale, imagine all of the concerns of the day flowing out and away. Once more, breathing into the heart and breathing out concerns and worries. Even imagine that you are breathing through your heart. Can you feel your breath going in and out from the heart? God is revealed in the desires of our hearts. The heart knows the answers to our questions. In our heart lies our truth. In the heart lies our dream. Breathing quietly now, we affirm, God speaks through the desire of my heart. God speaks through the desire of my heart. This desire is calling to me. Its voice is soft, and so I listen carefully. Silence is the doorway. Our dream waits in the open space. And so we let go of all effort and simply enter into the sacred space of silence, whispering, "Speak, Lord, speak. I am listening," in the silence. I am listening. I'm available. Through the incredible power of my imagination, I see life's vision for me. And this vision brings me joy. My inner ear is attuned to guidance, and my heart is faithful enough to wait for clarity. And courageous enough to act when the time is right. Speak, Lord. I am listening. Even as I go about the daily activities of my day, I sense your presence, and I am listening. And so it is. Amen.